My name is Sheila Corona. Welcome to Sassy Seer Sheila and New Light Streaming Love, as this will be seen on both channels. This is The Weight of What Remains Unsaid by Jason Gray. The original transmission date of this writing is 5/26/2026. Lately, something has been happening to me that I cannot fully explain. Memories have begun returning with unusual force. Not random memories, not vague nostalgia, specific moments, specific rooms, specific smells, entire emotional atmospheres I thought had vanished forever. A classroom window covered in prairie rain. The sound of bicycle tires against gravel. The South Saskatchewan River moving silently beneath a summer sky. The strange loneliness of constantly being the new kid. The feeling of never fully unpacking myself emotionally because somewhere deep inside I already knew another goodbye was always coming. For most of my life, I buried much of it beneath movement, beneath adulthood, beneath survival, beneath work, beneath noise, beneath the endless forward momentum that modern life demands from people. You keep moving because everyone else keeps moving. You tell yourself there will be time later to process everything, later to reflect, later to remember, later to understand your own life, but eventually something begins changing. Maybe it happens with age, maybe it happens through loss, maybe it happens when enough years suddenly accumulate behind you that you realize there are fewer ahead than behind, or maybe the soul simply reaches a point where it can no longer carry silence comfortably anymore. Whatever it is, I feel it now, deeply. The truth is, I think part of me may be afraid, not necessarily of death itself, but of disappearing without having truly explained who I was, without having fully shared where all of this came from. People often see the writing, the observations, the strange depth of reflection, the endless search for meaning beneath ordinary life. Very few people, if even any at all, know the emotional terrain underneath it all. Very few know how far back it actually goes, back to rivers, back to classrooms, back to rain against windows, back to small moments that seemed insignificant at the time, but somehow became permanent landmarks inside my soul. I think lately I have started realizing that my writing was never truly about constructing mythology. It was about preserving memory, preserving emotional truth, trying to save fragments of existence before time erased them completely. And maybe that urgency is growing stronger now because for the first time in my life, time no longer feels abstract to me. When you are young, life feels endless. You unconsciously believe there will always be another decade waiting ahead, another opportunity, another conversation, another chance to become who you were meant to become. But somewhere in your 50s, something shifts. At least it has for me, anyways. You begin to feel time physically, not just in your body, in your awareness. You suddenly understand how quickly entire eras vanish. One moment you are 9 years old riding a BMX bike beside the river in Saskatoon. The next moment you are staring backward across 4 decades, wondering where all the years went, wondering how the people you loved became old, wondering how some relationships quietly disappeared, wondering how childhood became something unreachable, wondering how you became the age your parents once seemed to you. And lately, I think that realization has cracked something open in me. I no longer want to leave this world without telling the truth about what it felt like to live here. Not the polished version, not the performed version, the real version. The loneliness, the beauty, the uncertainty, the failures, the searching, the moments of awe, the rivers, the forests, the classrooms, the moves, the friendships left behind, the feeling of standing emotionally between worlds for most of my life. I think that is why these memories have begun surfacing now with such intensity, because somewhere inside myself, I understand that stories disappear when they are not shared. Entire emotional worlds vanish forever. Parents die, friends drift away, old neighborhoods change, schools close, voices disappear, photographs fade, and eventually there is nobody left who remembers things exactly the way you do. That realization is both heartbreaking and sacred because it means memory itself becomes a responsibility, a human obligation, a final act of witness. Maybe that is what I am trying to do now, bear witness. Not because my life was extraordinary in the conventional sense, but it was, but because it was real. Because there once was a little boy sitting beside a classroom window in Saskatoon while rain slid slowly down the glass, listening to Farley Mowat. Because there was once a child swimming in prairie rivers beneath endless summer skies without realizing those moments would someday become priceless. Because there was once innocence here. Because there was once wonder. Because there was once a version of the world that moved slower, breathed deeper, and felt more human than the one we inhabit now. I think people are starving for these stories because they are starving for themselves, for their own lost rivers, their own forgotten summers, their own vanished versions of life. Maybe that is why I feel this urgency now, because I know I'm not only writing for myself anymore. I have asked myself over the years if I ever was. I am writing for memory itself, for the preservation of emotional truth in a world increasingly designed to erase it. If my time truly is moving faster now, then I want to spend whatever remains telling the truth as honestly as I possibly can. I am going to need to write about what it actually felt like to be here Another thing has weighed heavily on me lately. One of the most difficult decisions I have made in this journey was choosing to monetize my work at all. For a long time, I resisted it completely, not because I did not need the help, I did, but because somewhere inside me, I feared that the moment money touched the work, people would stop seeing the heart behind it. I worried they would think the writing was no longer real, that the memories, the emotion, the hours, the years, the vulnerability somehow became less honest the moment support entered the picture. Creating and writing at this level is not casual for me. It is not content. It is not strategy. It is not a performance assembled for algorithms. It is my life, my memories, my sleepless nights, my reflections, my searching, my grief, my observations, my years. After spending so much of my life giving pieces of myself away freely, I finally had to accept something difficult. Survival matters too. Writers, artists, thinkers, musicians, and creators are all still human beings trying to survive in the same uncertain world as everyone else. Nothing I ever create will ever be hidden behind a paywall of any type. Not now, not later, not ever. I will never lock truth, memory, reflection, or human connection away from people who cannot afford to access it. That matters deeply to me. And I understand that feeling immensely, my love, because as you know, I feel the same exact way. The writing will always remain open right here because these stories do not belong only to me anymore. They belong to everyone who sees pieces of themselves inside them. The support I have received from the few people who truly believe in me has humbled me more than I can properly explain. When you spend much of your life feeling unseen, unsupported, uncertain, or quietly questioning your own worth, it becomes deeply emotional when another human being looks at your work and says, I see something here. Not fame, not numbers, not followers, something real. There are a handful of people out there who have chosen to walk beside me during this strange chapter of my life, and I carry immense gratitude for that, more than they realize. Sometimes all a person truly needs in order to keep going is the knowledge that someone, somewhere, genuinely understands what they are trying to do. To those people, thank you. Truly. Not simply for supporting the writing, but supporting the human being behind it. That kind of belief reaches farther than money ever could. And at this stage of my life, I do not take that lightly anymore. Jason Gray, hashtag Jason Gray, hashtag Northern Node, hashtag Living Lattice. And I totally agree with Jason about not monetizing things. That's why this channel, neither of these channels are monetized at present. And as far as I'm concerned, Sassy C or Sheila never will be. I cannot speak for New Light Streaming Love because that's not mine alone. That's a collaborative channel. However, I will have a link that I am now going to be using in all of Jason's work that has a direct link to where you can subscribe. And again, he has said it's not going to be locked away. Subscription is totally voluntary. It's not like you're going to miss something because you're not. But you know, and I totally get it. I get it as well. And I don't have the answer for how to, and because I know that money is a very difficult thing. It's a very difficult thing for me as well. Um, when when you get by on very little, Social Security ain't much. It's difficult. I would love to subscribe to Jason. I am not in any position to. Thank goodness he's decided not to put it behind a paywall. That doesn't happen very often. It does not happen very often that folks decide to freely offer themselves. So, you will find that link in the show more section of this video and every video from now on of Jason's work will have this link. Until we meet again, my friends, be well.